All right, again, welcome to Captioning Tips and Tricks. And the goal again, all right, is talking not so much about making transcripts, but policy issues and workflow issues, copyright, finding transcripts, or planning ahead and making sure that you can minimize the pain of getting your own transcripts. And I think I already mentioned it, so this is the Adolf Hitler mashup. In this case, he's getting very angry because he has to caption all the videos. And then this is the sweating officer explaining that unfortunately he is obligated by ADA, Penn State Policy AD 69 and 25 to caption the videos. And this is the video. I wasn't going to play the video because again, that would be cheating, but this is something from the Miami Dolphins. So does anyone have any guesses on what's happening in terms of if there were captions, what they would be saying? Do you see the picture of them? Well, can you just sort of guesstimate what you, or someone in the chat room using your Mr. Rogers Storytime imagination abilities?
I can't tell anything from it.
Oh no. Anyone, any other thoughts in the chat room? Okay. I think everyone is stumped, and that's because captions are important. In this case, this is me talking about why orange and teal are difficult colors to work with so I always feel bad for the Miami Dolphins in terms of color contrast. So traditionally, there's been a panic when you hear about captioning, and it's because if you're actually listening to a video and having to transcribe it, it is going to take some time. And I speak from personal experience. I think people also think it's really expensive, but I'm actually going to say not necessarily. Things have changed. So I think that we need to re-educate ourselves and our colleagues. And of course, again, I think I'm speaking to the choir here, but it's not, captions aren't good just for people without physical hearing. It's also good for non-native speakers, and even to the point where sometimes I watch cop shows on BBC America and they have captions for the American audiences.
They're hard to understand.
Yes. Yeah, and even my neighbors, they turn on captions, like especially if they're got dogs barking or other things happening. For students, it can be good when vocabulary is unfamiliar. They might want to see the captions when the recorded audio is poor, and I know I've been guilty of that. Or they're watching the video and the audio conks out, so there are about 5 different failure points.
Yeah, there's a lot of different, like if you're in a quiet place and you can't have your audio on, then
exactly.
It's good. Or if you're in a loud place and you can't hear it, then it's good. So it's like both ways, kind of.
Yeah, that's true. Like if you're in the trying to watch video between classes in the hub, that would be a challenge. Right. And yeah, I'm watching video, and of course sports bars. That's the other place. But people always remind us that we have captions in sports bar, not because we want captions in sports bar. It was to accommodate people with hearing disabilities.
Well, the other thing is if you're watching a video and they're talking about people's names and some vocabulary that you haven't heard of before, you get the spelling of it right there, and that's important too.
Yes, definitely. In case anyone wonders, this is the link to AD 69, and we did revise it pretty recently, so now it's not just websites, it's all university electronic and information technology. So digital documents, online applications, even applications on your desktop or your phone, things like that. are there cases where you don't need to caption your video? Well, basically your wedding video you might post online, you don't really need to caption. Some individual web pages published by students also might be exempt, although that can be a gray area. Like it's a student club and someone who's deaf wants information about it, they might need captions. So, but basically, your classes and most university activities. And also, I think in the past, people have been in a very reactive mode. They're not going to caption it unless a student appears on their doorstep and wants or requires captions, but that can be problematic. Again, if you've got 50 hours of video, and hopefully it's not that bad, but if you do and you got an accommodation request, you're going to be scrambling. Whereas if you've thought about it ahead of time, even if you haven't quite gotten to everything, if you know what to do if a request comes in, you're going to be a lot better off. So we have the frowny face again versus the smiley face.
One has a mustache and one doesn't.
Yeah, he was so upset that he lost his mustache. Very frightening times. A question that comes up is if you're in a course and you're using someone else's video, can you caption it? And the answer is yes, you can if you have a student who requires captioning. The courts have been trending towards a combination is a fair use, and so it's there's no worries there. In the past, people would try and get permission, but even if you can't get permission, you can go ahead and take care of that. So you should still have a video caption plan. I think I forgot to add a slide that a lot of vendors will let you caption videos on YouTube without permission because they have a special skin player that they add on top of it. So you're not really altering the original video, you're adding to it. The other factor that is important is it might be the case that if you have one student who requires captions, you might need to lock down the captioned video to just that student if you haven't gotten permission. But there are other ways around it. So just to let you know, caption requests, they should be timely because we've had situations, again, when you get the last minute requests, sometimes the students, maybe they're hard of hearing and they haven't requested it, but then they run into the one video that's giving them problems, or they realize about week 5 that they should have gotten a captioned video because they're behind. And that's when you're in real trouble because you've got 5 videos to worry about and you don't want the student to get much more delayed. You need to make sure they're accurate. So that's when you have to beware of speech recognition. So speech recognition can be helpful, but you definitely need to check. One of the recent lawsuits against Harvard, MIT on their videos, one of the problems was they had turned on the automatic captions and it wasn't good enough. If you have a lot of videos to think about, we can talk about triage. So especially your own video. So any video you make that's open to the public, you definitely want to make sure you get that captioned. Video, even if it's locked down to all Penn State, you do want to be aware that we have deaf staff here. And you don't know, I've actually heard from people that I didn't realize had a hearing issue that actually do have a hearing issue. So I think it's almost invisible that there are more people who can use captions than we realize. And finally, for courses, again, if you're using a lot of videos and you're wondering where to start, probably start with your online classes. I guess World Campus tends to have the highest number of requests in proportion to any of the other colleges or campuses. Your Gen Ed and your large enrollment class videos. Are there any questions coming in yet? Okay.
Chat. Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't know what happened. Chat went down.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going and we can get back to them.
Okay, nothing.
Okay. So things have actually improved when I started talking about this 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. So one piece of good advice is sometimes things are already captioned. So I pulled this video about the North Vietnamese thinking Nixon was a madman off their PBS.com website, and it was an American Experience video. If you're watching shows on Hulu or TED Talk or networks like Fox, they're often captioned already, so you might be able to point students there. Even the news sites are starting to get a little better. Also, anything on Netflix, because Netflix was also sued, so things are captioned there now. If you buy something off of iTunes, they're usually captions. Most DVDs have captions. If not captions, they might have subtitles. So subtitles and captions aren't quite the same thing. So for example, a caption would include things like musical cues or whether significant noises are being made, like the wind is howling or a shoe dropped or something like that, whereas subtitles is just the speech. Another resource are the libraries. So maybe you're watching something on YouTube, but the libraries may have a captioned version of it on their shelves. But that probably won't take care of everything. So what else can you do? All right. Well, before we get into that, I did want to explain things on when are things not really captioned. So I've fallen for this myself. I go and find a video and think, oh, it's captioned already because I can click the caption button and something shows up. But you need to check and make sure it's not these English auto-generated ones. And I have some examples. This is if you're familiar with I, Tanya, about Tanya Harding. This is the parody I, Nancy, about Nancy Kerrigan. And this is, even though the words are perfect, it's still problematic because you don't know who's speaking. There's no punctuation. So it just says, took interest in my career. It's perfect. Please don't skate on it. Thinking, what? And that's because it really should have been edited. So this is like the parody Vera Wang, who's got her career started designing costumes for Nancy Kerrigan. So the narrator, who's Nancy, says that Vera Wang was the first designer who took interest in her career. And Nancy says, it's perfect. And then Vera says, please don't skate in it. So you can see one of the, even if your auto captions are 100% perfect, you might need to edit them for your students if something like this is happening. And then also just to let people know, again, this is a video where the captions were almost perfect, but there was one issue in there. And anyone want to guess what? So it was, you can see here, they were talking about, this is line search, so as well as hell law, psychology, and many other areas. So anyone want to guess what the hell law was?
Well, health.
Yeah, it is health. Yeah. And again, the reason I'm asking is it's just an indication that, like, if someone makes a typo, you can usually reconstruct what it's supposed to be. But with these, it's kind of hard to figure out what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I know we captioned that and it was accurate.
Yeah, this is the automatic generator. Yes, there are real captions for this video. And I think those are on by default. And just another one, there are always crazy ones, but this is the next one where, again, the Today Show, which has pretty good quality audio, but then the Real Housewives went too filthy.
Yeah.
Anyone want to guess where they went to?
Philadelphia. Filthy.
Filthy. No, actually, they went to the Philippines.
Oh.
So this is another reason you get some really crazy things that you don't want people saying. Yeah. There was another one I heard from an Ivy League university. They wanted to say that it is possible to get in, but it ended up being that it was impossible to get in. So they had to fix that. So sometimes if the video isn't captioned, you might be able to find a transcript, and that's helpful because it's easier to convert a transcript into captions than typing them from scratch. So what do I mean by that? So for example, TED Talk. So there's 2 examples. So one is called "I'm Not Your Inspiration, Thank You Very Much." That's from someone with a disability saying that she appreciates the admiration, but she hasn't necessarily earned it, because her parents said, well, you've been going to school, is that different from anyone else? It's a little different, but so that was Stella Young. So 3 years ago, you could get captions on TED.com, but not YouTube. But now even YouTube has the correct caption, so it is spreading. Also, this is an ear anatomy, and I'll probably go to that, see if I can get that one to work. So the captions, again, are automatically generated. So see, they're auto-generated. So that's might be good for someone who's really stuck. But the other thing I wanted to point out is you should always check this information when it says more, because these aren't the captions or even the transcript, but it does give you the main idea. And a lot of academic websites are getting better about having that kind of information. So you still have to get captions, but you sort of gave yourself a few days there. One of my other favorite ones, so someone is showing, this is sort of a controversial video, so they're showing Fiona Apple's video, which at the time people were concerned whether it was going to be sexualizing underage people too much. But you might want the lyrics. So again, the actual video does not have lyrics, so if you go to the official video site, it's not going to be there. But thanks to a lot of people out there, you can find the lyrics. So I don't have the audio on, but you can imagine, I guess I can put the audio on. Ta-da. And it's still, there you go. So this wasn't done by anyone. This is sort of a lot of fans make these lyrics videos. So you can have both versions. And again, that might save you a little bit of time.
I didn't know they'd be allowed to post the music like that.
I'm not sure. Just I think people are tolerating it. So the other thing you can do, and this is sort of step 2, is there are a lot of lyric sites. So so on YouTube, if you you could give this to a vendor, and they could time it for you, and that might save you money.
And also, if you upload it to YouTube, they could do it, and then you can download it.
Yeah, again. I'm not sure. You'd have to get your own copy and upload it to YouTube. So
yeah, you'd have to. You can mark it private, so it can't be seen.
Yeah, but
just long enough, and then delete it afterwards.
But you have to have a copy of the video, which isn't always easy to get.
Yeah, or just the audio.
Yeah, that's true. That might be easier to get, actually. So the idea what Pat is saying is if you have the audio track, that's a good point. You might be able to find the MP3 of this video, of this song, and upload it to something like YouTube. And if you upload the transcript, their speech recognition works well enough to create a timed transcript.
I don't know if you have to make a actual video out of the audio, like add a picture that would keep the same picture with the audio if you're uploading one movie?
Maybe, I don't know.
Because I don't think it can upload just the audio track.
We are, that is sort of, I'm not sure how many faculty would know how to do that, but Pat sure knows. And your other video experts around might know too. So something to keep, and I'm going to put up one more site, which is so we do have a page, and really this page is pointing to how to upload captions, how to add the time codes. This is what Pat was talking about. Some of the other resources are making your own. So if you're kind of stuck about what some of these techniques are we're talking about, if you go to accessibility.psu.youtube or on the YouTube support page, you should be able to find that information. And this is what we were talking about. If you have the lyrics and you either have the video or the audio, you can merge the two. And then apparently, Katy Perry, you can get captions in Japanese. So don't know why they don't have captions on these official videos, but they don't. Maybe the law will catch up to them. Here's another common scenario that I think a lot of people run into, which is the news clip. So this was about 2 weeks ago when Facebook was in trouble with revealing too much data and Mark Zuckerberg was being interviewed, and sometimes there isn't a caption yet, especially if the interview is fairly fresh. So what do? One is you can maybe find the text story that goes with the video. So I know sometimes the news story will just show you the video, but there's usually a text-based news source that goes with it. So, and CNN is very nice about, I'm gonna need this.
This was a major issue, and I'm really sorry that this happened. We have
Okay, so look right here, I'm really sorry this happened. So a lot of the key quotes are in there already. So that may be what you need. And similarly, the CNN had just a list of his quotes. And he's really sorry, and they're going to have to review their apps and things like that. So again, that may be sufficient to what the point is, or it can buy you time. Sometimes if you wait a few days, so like if I heard Winnie Mandela, who was the first wife of Nelson Mandela, passed away. I think might have been Monday. If I had found the news story Monday, it might not have been captioned, but if I look back today, perhaps it is captioned. They've caught up. If you really are stuck, you might have to create a transcription. And I know sometimes this happens, especially with archived videos that people recorded 10 or more years ago. So, but news stories are different. And then possibly my favorite scenario, so I've seen this a lot. This is the boring teacher on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ben Stein. And I've seen him quoted a lot about in terms of good and bad pedagogy. And so a question is there a key quote? Do you have to listen to all 5 minutes? Maybe you do in this case. Or there's like a particular section that's really relevant. Again, people actually have done this for you. So if you go to, this is actually one of my favorite sites. This is the Internet Movie Database. And if you're quoting from really popular TV shows or movies, there's a quote section. And you can find all sorts of quotes. And I think, there it is. Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. That's Stein again. Or, guess what? This one's so popular that, there it is. The 1930 Republican-controlled House of Representatives wanted to alleviate the effects of anyone, dead silence, the Great Depression. So Ben Stein, he got famous for being a really boring lecturer. I can sympathize. So my lesson is, if you're quoting from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I've quoted from Star Wars or Downton Abbey, you might be able to find the quote for you already and have that as a backup. It's also good if the video link goes away for some reason. You think you have the video and someone takes it down. So here's the link again, or the text again. So basically, for a lot of things, like even if maybe you're quoting Martin Luther King's speech, there's a transcript of it out there, a lot of presidential speeches. It won't cover everything, and I'm sure someone will have a case it doesn't cover. It might be able to cover a lot of things that come up, especially the news one. All right, and just to let you know, this is Moviecaptioner. This is another place where you can do transcripts. Pat, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
Oh, just anybody who wants to get a copy of Moviecaptioner, they could just email me. I guess we could supply my email address. Put it in the chat,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I can put it in the chat. We also have it, accessibility at PSU. He can find it out for you too.
Yeah. It just makes it easy to do the captioning.
Yeah. So if you're doing it in Moviecaptioner, you don't need to upload it anywhere. You just play the video and you import the transcript, play the video, and hit return at appropriate times, and then you can export it. And YouTube, again, the speech recognition can help you set time codes, and then you can export that file. So it doesn't have to stay on YouTube. It can go other places. So when do you need to worry about it? You don't want to go running around adding captions, because that's you are going to get in trouble from copyright. But definitely, if you get an accommodation letter, you definitely want to look for the caption version first. So if it's on iTunes or there's a DVD you can lend out, or it's on Hulu. I don't know what the policy is, but whether you have to provide an account for a student or not, but it's $1.99 on iTunes to get a TV episode, so that's pretty cheap, and maybe $10 a month for Hulu, and that's a little cheaper, not a little more expensive, but still cheap in Penn State terms. You do want to try and get permission from the video, especially if you're using the same video over and over and over. So I had one I linked to a lot about Hong Kong pigeons that they had already captioned it for me, but if they hadn't, I might have wanted to get them to do it or something like that.
I added the link to video word search so people can search for transcripts on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll talk about that.
I put it in the chat.
If you're really stuck or you have a time crunch, I did talk to our copyright officer, Brandy Carl, and she is okay with you just doing whatever you need to do to get a captioned video to the student and providing access just to that student. So, I think we already talked about this. So, well, we talked about YouTube and Moviecaptioners, but are there any other options? Well, again, Moviecaptioner, you can do it without a transcript, but you have to listen to the video. So if you download Moviecaptioner, maybe you can do it. I've done it. It's an interesting experience. Other options we've done is maybe we've hired graduate students or TAs, or we've had some administrative assistants when they're not scheduling meetings or doing other things, they might have time to do that. And actually one person now is, she's an IT person in Smeal, so not that bad a deal.
April.
April, yeah.
Yeah, she was good. She likes doing it too.
Yeah, it helps if people are interested in hearing the content. But actually, it's just as easy to use a vendor such as 3Pay. ASC actually meant to put in rev.com.
They're the cheapest. They're about $1 a minute.
Yeah, rev.com is $1 a minute. So, so if you have like a promo video and it's like 5 minutes, it's $5 on rev.com or $15 on one of the more deluxe services. The problem is going to be if you're recording. So someone mentioned that they were recording all the 75-minute classes. And so you imagine 2 75-minute classes twice a week, that's $150 per week times 15 weeks. That is going to add up. So that's when you might want to think about, if you don't think that's in your budget, maybe it is, and that's great. But if it's not, maybe you want to talk about focusing the content, recording just a key demo, or talking about a concept students have a particularly difficult time with. I would warn you, if you just do lecture capture, you are likely to get a lot of content such as snow delays or when the next homework is due. And if you can have someone edit that out, that can also reduce your cost, because it can reduce how much time you need on the video. So just something to think about. Some other thoughts. We talk about storyboards and scripts, and I know there's pushback from faculty because they want to be spontaneous, and I understand that, but also be aware that you're going to have issues. I will have issues in this video. People saying things like electronic devices. I actually saw that, or people changing thoughts mid-sentence and saying and like, and just other things. So it is good to try and get people to use scripts if you possibly can. How to use speech recognition. All right. So just, again, be careful. We have this fantasy speech recognition from Star Trek. So Picard saying tea, Earl Grey hot. And he's actually maximized his, he was always saying the same phrase in its limited vocabulary. So speech recognition has the best chance of working. He also has a Shakespearean acting voice, so that always helps. Good deep tones and clear vowels. And I think everyone who's ever used Siri has had issues where they couldn't get Siri to pay attention to them. So
I've never gotten anything out of Siri.
Yeah, me neither. But that doesn't mean, again, if you're lucky and someone has a decent speaking voice, you can use speech recognition and figure out and maybe make minor corrections like the filthy correction or from the Today Show. But you may find that you really are dealing with gobbledygook. And again, true story, I had a GA before we started using rev.com. He was using Moviecaptioner, and he said, "Can I use speech recognition?" I said, "Well, make sure it's working out for you." And then he came back to me and he said, "I can't use speech recognition. It was my voice."
It's so bad usually.
Yeah. If you have really good, high-quality production audio and the person is a trained speaker with a standard English dialect, your chances are pretty good that you'll get something usable. And I've heard stories. Some people say, "Oh yeah, it works for me all the time. I don't have a problem with it." And
Well, it depends. YouTube is not that good. It's about 50%, I found, 60 maybe if you have clear audio.
Yeah.
But it's usually easier just to type the whole thing over.
Yeah. And the other one is you can also use drag and drop, or dragging naturally
Yeah.
speaking.
Right.
So that's a speech recognition program. It's like maybe 150 the last time I checked for an academic license.
You can use that with Moviecaptioner too.
Right. So the benefit of that is if a professor really wants to record videos, that person can set up a profile that will be more accurate. So when it comes time to do the caption, you'll have a better output. But again, this was another one I collect these. Someone was talking about, this was a logic course, so there are a lot of P's and Q's. If you remember symbolic logic, they are always talking about P and Q.
The bottoms seem to be getting cut off.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think because of the way Zoom set up.
Zoom setup. So if, I'm just going to keep going, but if there's a question, let me know. But this is P's and Q's, and the speech recognition gave me P's, the vegetable, and Q's. I think we already talked about that. And I always like to show this is why speech recognition is hard, because this is what you're actually trying to work with. We hear separate segments, but the computer is actually seeing a continuous sound wave. So this is the profile. This is Dragon Naturally Speaking, which creates a custom profile for different speakers. So if you have the same person doing a lot of recordings, that might be a good solution. Plus, they might enjoy Dragon Naturally Speaking. So it's the end of the slideshow. It's always like to end with something about speech recognition. So are there any questions?